So what habits did you pick up over COVID-19, over lockdown? Some good, some bad. For me, I picked up the habit of running in the middle of the road. Now, I'm not talking about now when there are cars on the streets and everything's a little bit back to normal-ish. I'm talking about the very beginning of lockdown when we couldn't really leave our houses for more than half an hour. That was the moment I decided 6 o'clock in the morning, that's when I'm going to run, which, by the way, before COVID-19, I would never have dreamt that 6 o'clock in the morning was a time to do anything. However, that was what lockdown life was going to have to look like for me. That's when I got my runs done. And I left my house, went out into this road, onto my normal route, and there was just no one anywhere. It was like a scene from a movie. So I thought, well, you know, let's shake things up a little bit. Let's go and run in the middle of the road. And I'll never forget being on this street that I'd run on 1,000 times and my trainers just stepping off of the pavement into the road. And just suddenly this space that was so familiar became unfamiliar. And as I ran further down the road, my perspective had totally changed just because I'd made that choice. For me, that kind of sums up COVID-19. The familiar becoming unfamiliar and suddenly feeling really lost and unsettled. And it's out of this moment, when we feel all of those feelings, that Jesus calls us to lead. Now you might be thinking, hang on a sec, she's hit record and it's supposed to be for the church leaders or the old guys or the politicians or whatever. No, I'm speaking to you. Jesus who lived and died, Jesus who rose again, Jesus who knows the thoughts in your mind right now and who loves you more than you can ever get your head around. That Jesus also calls you to lead. I don't know if you've ever had it where someone in your church has been really well-meaning and kind and they're kind of encouraging you and they say, because you're the church of tomorrow. And well, you know, they might be well-meaning and I know they're just trying to cheer you on, but they're also wrong because you're the church today. Your life, your voice shapes the church now, but also your life, your choices, your voice shapes your family, influences your peers, your football team, your classroom. And that might make you feel really overwhelmed right now as you hear that, or it might be like, where do I begin? Whatever your response to that is, we've got some stories of people who responded to Jesus in a very similar way, and he gave them the tools to lead, to change our world as we know it today. But I'm getting ahead of myself, because what am I talking when I talk about leadership? Well, there's this guy called John Maxwell who runs this global leadership company which basically helps people to discover leadership in their businesses and in every part of life. And he's got this great quote and it says, leadership is one life influencing another life. And it's kind of handy because I lead an organisation called One Life and we exist to enable you to lead now, to give you whatever you need to take up Jesus' opportunity and invitation to influence and lead to build the kingdom of God with him. Sounds pretty amazing, doesn't it? Sounds pretty exciting. That's a great quote to use. But you'll be pleased to hear that this isn't just about motivational speeches or nice thoughts. Our ideas come from Jesus himself. They come from the Bible. And I want to share with you a snapshot of Jesus' life. It's in Luke chapter 5 at the very beginning. And I'd encourage you to go and read it another time because I'm just going to paint the picture of the story and pull out a few headlines. Because this is where Jesus is teaching by the waterside and there's crowds everywhere around him trying to hear what he's saying. And Simon Peter's just to the side getting on with his day job as a fisherman. Jesus asked Simon to help row him out so he can speak from the water so his voice can project easier. Simon Peter agrees, you know, what's the big deal? But it's from that space that then Jesus asks another thing of Simon Peter and he asked him to do something crazy. He asked him to put his nets back in the water after an unsuccessful night of fishing and fish again. And this is really crazy because this is in the heat of the midday sun. It's in front of all these crowds. He would have looked ridiculous, but he says he will. He does it. He agrees. And he gets this miraculous catch of fish, so much so that his friends have to come and help so the boat doesn't sink. Simon Peter realizes something incredible is happening, that Jesus is in his boat and his life is changed forever. But there's a couple of headlines for us right now in COVID-19 as we begin to wrestle with this idea of leading now that Jesus has for us today. And the first thing I want to say is that Jesus was already in Simon's boat. What I mean by that is he was already in his everyday life. Simon Peter was a fisherman. That's what he did every day. Just like you walk into your school or you're part of your family, there are things you do every day. Jesus is already in your everyday. Don't box him up. Don't think, oh, now I've got to, really focus on this. He's already there. You're never going into a space where he is not, and he's waiting to invite you into something. And that's my second point, is he offers Simon Peter an invitation. And that invitation is to get involved. It's to partner with him, because our God is not a God of dictatorship, but is a God of partnership. The God who threw the stars into space steps into Peter's boat and says, "Give me a hand, will you?" The God who threw the stars into space steps into your family, into your football team, into your classroom and says, "Would you do this with me?" And from that place, Simon Peter says yes, he gets involved, and he gets a totally different perspective. There is a fresh perspective for you from Jesus about how you see yourself in your everyday situation. And he wants to give that to you as you journey with him. From that place of perspective, Jesus then gives Simon Peter an opportunity. He says, "Would you do this? Would you put your nets over in this water again now?" And what I love is Simon Peter's like really real with him. It's there in verse 5. He says, "Master, we've worked hard all night." That's him saying, "You want me to do what? Are you crazy?" Simon's worried about all the people watching on the shore. This is his reputation that's at stake, because this would have been even offensive for a fisherman to do this. If you're ever worried about what people think about the fact you're a Christian or the fact you want to bring change, then take heart. I find it hard too. But Simon Peter, who had Jesus physically in his boat, he found it hard too. So there's stuff we can learn from this guy. But it was there in those moments of questions where he didn't hide that from Jesus. He didn't put on a performance or a pretense, pretending everything was fine. He was real with him. And he said, "I'm worried about this. You're asking me to do something that's crazy. But," and that's the key word, I call it the big but factor, guys. We all need a big but factor in our moments of doubts, in our moments of questions. "But I will trust you. But because you say so, I'll do this." Lets down the nets, and he gets to see this incredible move of God. He understands quite what's happening, that who is it that has stepped into his everyday. So we've seen an invitation, we've seen a perspective shift, we've seen an opportunity. And then from Simon Peter, we can learn what it's all about. And it's that personal response back to Jesus. Simon Peter doesn't just sit there and go, "Yeah, check me out. Look at all the fish I've caught. We can scale this business. We're doing well." His focus goes back to Jesus, and he confesses that he's a sinner. He recognizes that he's not God, but there's something in him dropping to his knees, recognizing that it's God in his boat, and he's the one that's made this happen. In all of our leadership journeys, when it starts here right now with the people around you, or whether it goes on to platforms and responsibility and statuses, or whatever it could be in the future, we turn our response back to Jesus, recognizing that he is God and we are not. Because what comes then? It's another invitation from Jesus, and the whole process starts again, because at the end of this story, Jesus says to Simon Peter, "Follow me and I'll make you a fisher of people." And Simon Peter, guys, is the guy that built the church. He's the guy that brought so much change to this world, and changed as an individual, and then saw the church released. So where do we go from here during COVID-19 as we come out of lockdown? How do we begin to lead? And I want to set you a challenge. One day, one thing. Start off one day, pick a day. Begin your day just by praying, remembering Jesus has already gone into that day with you, before you, into your family, into your peer group, into whatever you've got coming up in your day. He is already there. And in that moment of prayer, just hear him invite you. Ask about what one thing does he want you to bring into those spaces today? Just one thing. And it might be that for you in your family home, it's about speaking to your mum before she speaks to you, or making someone a cup of tea, or taking out the bins, an act of service to bring love and to change the atmosphere in that space. It might be about encouraging a friend when normally you'd keep quiet. It might be even as small as holding a door open, actively saying, "Who can I serve today as I walk through my school or through my setting?" One day, one thing. Begin your day recognizing Jesus has gone ahead of you. Ask him, what one thing can you bring? And then at the end of the day, just reflect back. Pray about that moment. Jesus, thank you that I got to take the bins out. Even if that person never even noticed, you did it for Jesus. You remember Simon Peter's personal response was back to him. And make a commitment to book in another day when you're going to do one thing. Because just like Simon Peter, the process continued. The invitation and the journey continues. And Jesus will take you on a leadership journey that begins today. I want to encourage you to tell your youth pastor you're doing this. Ask them to pray for you. Ask them to hold you accountable, to see how it's gone, to process it with you. And also, we've got a load of resources on our website, onelifeleaders.com, particularly around leading in the family. and choices and things you can bring into that space to help you just lead out of your relationship with Jesus to bring change. Guys, I'm so excited for you. I'm praying for you. This is just the first step. Go and lead out of the knowledge that Jesus loves you and he goes before you and has an invitation for you to lead with him.